Nanalo na founded na Team Tinikling Tribe ng 200,000 pesos.
Family Feud, 5:40 p.m.
Welcome to my episode that is called
Nagmamano pa.
That's okay.
This is DW News, and these are our top stories. China has held its biggest ever military parade to mark the 80th anniversary of Japan's 1945 surrender, which ended the Second World War. President Xi Jinping was joined by allies Vladimir Putin of Russia and the North Korean leader Kim Jong-un. Laser weapons, nuclear ballistic missiles and giant underwater drones were among the military hardware on display. Afghanistan has been hit by a strong aftershock after a devastating earthquake struck on Sunday. The quake killed at least 1,400 people and injured thousands more. Rescuers are struggling to reach the remote mountainous region where entire villages have been destroyed. Officials fear the death toll could rise further. US President Donald Trump says 11 people were killed in a military strike on a vessel carrying drugs from Venezuela. The operation comes after Washington announced it was bolstering its forces in the Caribbean to crack down on the drugs trade. Venezuela's leader, Nicolas Maduro, has accused the US of trying to force regime change. This is DW News from Berlin, and you can find lots more on our website. That's dw.com.
A strike on an alleged drug boat from Venezuela. Thousands more Epstein files are released, and American researchers await new guidance on autism amid fears for vaccine uptake. It's Wednesday, September 3rd. This is Reuters World News, bringing you everything you need to know from the front lines in 10 minutes, 7 days a week. I'm Kim Vanel in Wanganui, New Zealand. We begin in China, where President Xi Jinping has presided over the country's biggest ever military parade to mark 80 years since the end of World War II. 50,000 people watch on as a highly choreographed display of military hardware rolls through Beijing. From intercontinental ballistic missiles to aerial drones and torpedoes, and its newest tech, so-called robot wolves, four-legged robots which can replace human soldiers in combat. To end, acrobatic jets fly over Tiananmen Square with coloured smoke plumes, and 80,000 pigeons symbolising peace are released. I spoke to Greg Turode, who was watching the parade from Singapore.
It's quite clear that a lot of people have been struck by the sweep of the technology on display. This time, there's a sense that China's deploying cutting-edge technology to kind of tie all its weapons together. So tanks, for example, had come bristling with air defense systems with drones attached that can be released. The cyber forces and the information support forces were displaying. There was electronic jamming equipment. There was all kinds of little devices that China was showing off.
What was Xi Jinping's message?
You're going to have a real problem in a conflict in East Asia because with the large sea drones that we can deploy underwater and the hypersonic missiles that we can rain down in the near seas, it's going to be very problematic for US.
Another guest making waves, Kim Jong-un's teenage daughter. fueling speculation she may be his potential successor. US President Donald Trump posting a message to Xi Jinping on Truth Social, saying, "Please give my warmest regards to Vladimir Putin and Kim Jong-un as you conspire against the United States of America." The US military has attacked a boat in the Caribbean, killing 11 people on board. President Donald Trump says the speedboat was carrying drugs and the crew were members of Venezuelan gang Tren de Aragua, which the US designates a terrorist group. Phil Stewart is Reuters' national security reporter and says usually in a drug trafficking incident, a boat would be stopped, drugs seized, and people arrested, not killed.
So President Trump shared a video, and that video looked very familiar to those of us who covered the U.S. military because it kind of harkened back to the wars on terrorism in Afghanistan and Iraq, where you'd see kind of overhead video from a drone shortly before it takes out a target. But what was really different about this was it was an isolated, cropped shot of a boat heading through the waters. And all you saw was kind of figures on the boat, and then boom, the boat exploding.
There's been a build-up of US naval ships in the Caribbean in recent weeks as part of a pledge by Trump to crack down on drug cartels. The president accuses Venezuelan President Nicolas Maduro of controlling this gang. But as reporter Julia Sims-Cobb explains, Venezuelan officials reject that.
So Venezuelan Communications Minister Freddy Nanez put on Telegram that he thinks the video that Trump posted on his Truth Social is generated by AI. Reuters actually did an initial verification and we don't see any signs of AI. And then in terms of what Venezuela says about the Tren de Aragua gang,
My eyes were these videos of interviews that Florida law enforcement did with Epstein victims as part of their investigation into him in 2005 and 2006. And you can't see the girls' faces, they're blurred out, and their names are bleeped out of the videos. But basically they were describing meeting Jeffrey Epstein and giving him massages. And, it's pretty striking to see the video of those interviews because it really strikes you how young these girls are. I mean, they're like 17 at the time of these allegations. But as far as the shocking or super revelatory stuff, the client list, for instance, that people have been really looking forward to seeing, which may or may not exist, that of course wasn't in there.
After weeks of will he, won't he, Trump says he is sending National Guard troops to Chicago to fight crime.
Well, we're going in. I didn't say when, we're going in.
Illinois Governor J.B. Pritzker says the Trump administration is preparing.
Donald Trump is positioning armed federal agents and staging military vehicles on federal property, such as the Great Lakes Naval Base.
Chicago's mayor says local police won't cooperate, setting up a legal clash. Google won't have to sell Chrome or Android, a federal judge ruled, handing big tech a rare win in a major antitrust case. But the court ordered Google to share search data with rivals to boost competition. The ruling lets Google keep paying Apple billions to stay the default search engine. Shares in both companies jumped after the decision. There are fears that a government-funded study on autism could mean people stop vaccinating their children. Vaccine skeptic and Health Secretary Robert F. Kennedy Jr. is leading an initiative. Health reporter Robin Respot says families, advocacy groups and researchers will be watching closely.
it could have huge implications depending on what that guidance says. If the government were to announce a potential link between autism and vaccines, and to be clear, there have been many studies in recent years looking at this, and the results have shown so far no evidence of a link between autism and vaccines. If the government were to announce something, the fear is that it would have a possible chilling effect among parents and others when it comes time to vaccinate their children.
And Robin says that could impact the creation of new vaccines too.
The health insurance companies that generally pay for our vaccines could potentially stop covering them for patients because health authorities here no longer recommend them as medically necessary. And so then you could see maybe pharmaceutical companies start thinking, should we invest in new vaccine research and development if the market is no longer there?
And for today's recommended read, a yogurt and its fans from the other side of the world. Every year, Chinese tourists flock to a Bulgarian mountain village for a late summer festival celebrating its local yogurt, which has become a hit in China. We'll put a link to that story in today's pod description. For more on any of the stories from today, check out Reuters.com or the Reuters app. Don't forget to follow us on your favorite podcast player. And if you're listening on a smart speaker, just ask for the latest news from Reuters 7 days a week. We'll be back tomorrow with our daily headline show.
That's it for your news updates. To see more stories, open Google News.